next up is Dr. Leona Black, who will be discussing compassion fatigue in relation to animal care and welfare. So Dr. Leona has been working as an educational psychologist since 2007, having qualified at the University of Bristol in the UK. She's had her own educational psychology business since 2015, which is called BlackLight Learning. Leona wanted to find a way to combine her love of animals and concern around welfare with her understanding of humans. And her belief is that the welfare of humans is important when considering the welfare of animals. So in 2021, Leona embarked on a master's at the University of Edinburgh in international animal welfare ethics and law. And she learned from speaking to colleagues in and outside of the course just how prevalent compassion fatigue can be in the area of animal welfare. And as a result, she wanted to combine her psychological and helping skills to support those directly supporting animals. This led her to get a coaching accreditation and to develop her coaching and psychology business with the BlackLight Coach in 2022. So through Leona's coaching and psychological skills, she hopes to support people working on the front line of animal care and welfare with their well-being. So Dr. Leona, thank you so much for joining us. Over to you.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great, I'll just share my screen.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All good? Can you see it okay?
Yep, all good.
Okay, great. Hi, lovely to see you all, and thank you for the introduction and for being here today. I'm going to be talking about compassion fatigue, which I think is obviously a very important topic. I wasn't going to say this before, but everyone's been so open. I've experienced compassion fatigue in my own work and burnout. I know now how it feels, but during the experience of it, I had no idea. I wasn't really watching what was going on in my body. I didn't really understand what was happening to me. And it was only through coaching that I then started to unpick what was going on for me and to find ways around it and to manage things better and continue doing the work that I do. So yeah, I do get it. And I'm definitely not perfect at managing it, but I'm getting a lot better over the last couple of years and hope to continue. Another thing that is that I sometimes get quite nervous doing presentations. So I wouldn't call it a phobia or a massive fear, but a little bit nervous. So that's how I'm feeling right now. But I'm also really excited. And I think nerves and excitement, they feel exactly the same in so many ways. So I'm feeling both of those things at the moment. So okay, well, I'll get started. So some of you may have heard of the concept of compassion fatigue or indeed experienced it yourselves. People who support animals are usually, by definition, caring people who value and enjoy putting the needs of animals first, and so are susceptible to experiencing this. Animal care workers often treat sick, injured, and dying animals. They go into their jobs with the idea of protecting and caring for animals, but the reality is that they may also have to make some very hard decisions in relation to certain animals in their care, and not all can be saved. Compassion fatigue in animal-related occupations is an important issue as it can have a negative impact on employee mental well-being, workplace productivity, and morale. The impacts of these conditions are notable and have become more recognised by those who are employed in animal-related occupations and also in the research. So because of this, I made it my mission as a psychologist and coach to use my skills to help people working with animals, to help them with their well-being, as I truly believe that your welfare alongside the animals is also very important. So, I'm going to move my slide. Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, so in this very short whistle-stop tour of compassion fatigue, in animal-related occupations, by the end of the session, I hope you'll have an understanding of what compassion fatigue is. I hope to normalise it by sharing the 5-stage model of compassion fatigue in animal-related occupations. I will share some of the signs you may experience in compassion fatigue and what can make us susceptible to it. And finally, some ideas will be shared about how to prevent compassion fatigue and how you can look after your own well-being and others. So please take away from this what is useful to you and just move on. So let's pause for a moment. This is a piece around compassion and kindness. So I think it's really important that we can all just be really compassionate and kind to ourselves. So what I thought would be nice is if you could just put in the chat box one thing that is totally brilliant about you and put it in there, and I hope you have a little look at it. I'm gonna say the thing that I'm brilliant at, which doesn't feel comfortable saying it, but I've practiced this a lot, but I'm brilliant at people. So that's the thing I'm brilliant at, and I'd like you to write down something you're brilliant at as well. It can be anything, it can be work related, it could be really good at skateboarding, it doesn't matter, just something that you feel really positive at. And another reason other than let's talk about being kind to one another and to yourselves is I just want you to observe what is going on for you when I asked you to do that. So when I asked you to say something brilliant about yourself, did it make you feel really uncomfortable? Did you feel quite a bit of resistance to wanting to writing that down? Did you think it was a bit silly? Or were you really happy and like, yeah, I'm really happy to share what's brilliant about me? I want to emphasize how important it is to watch what's happening in our bodies when we're doing something, and that's just a little example of observing ourselves. So I hope that's okay. There's quite a few chat things. I'll just have a quick look. I'm brilliant at getting concert tickets. That's nice. Let me just go back. Boxing and singing, but embarrassed to share. Yes, it is. It can feel really like it wasn't comfortable to say I'm good at listening. You like showing a positive energy with people. I hope I'm getting crafting. I'm brilliant at hosting visitor keeper experiences. These are great. Lovely. Photography. I don't know if I'm going to capture them all. I'm emotionally intelligent. I did feel happy about saying it. Good. So I struggle to know what to say. I know it can be really hard to say something positive about ourselves. We're much better at saying what's not going so well, I think. Thank you. Procrastinating. Sharing passion. It feels very awkward to try and think of things. Yeah, good. And I'm not good that it's awkward, but good that you're recognizing that in yourself. Well done. Being positive, sometimes unrealistic. Oh no, not Jill. No, not Jill. You've got so much positivity. It's wonderful. Martial arts, finding something to keep me busy, positivity, resilience. All right, this is great. Lots of really positive things. It can be very awkward to talk about this, but an activity maybe to take away with you and check in with yourself later on. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Okay, well, I'm going to move on. Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to move on. There we go. So I'm just going to provide a definition to begin with of what compassion fatigue is. So it's considered a state, it is a state experienced by those helping people or animals. It is an extreme state of tension and preoccupation with suffering of those being helped to the degree that it can create a secondary traumatic stress for the caregiver. I'd like to add to that definition, which I think it's a protective mechanism. Having compassion fatigue is a way to protect ourselves from the things that are really scaring us or we're finding really difficult or traumatic. So it's a way to protect ourselves and keep us safe, but isn't always very helpful, unfortunately. What I have noted in the literature is that compassion and empathy fatigue are often used interchangeably in the research to mean the same thing. So just some researchers prefer to use the term empathy fatigue because there is a difference between empathy and compassion. So briefly, empathy is when we feel with the other person or the animal, and it's a useful step in building social connection. That's why we have empathy. It helps us connect to other humans. This connection can also lead us to experiencing the other's pain though, or their distress, and then the lines can get blurred between what is their pain and what is our pain. So this leads to us taking on the stress and the experiences of those being helped. Doesn't keep us separate, keeps us very involved. Whereas compassion, on the other hand, can be characterized by feelings of warmth, concern, and care for the other, as well as a strong motivation to improve the other's well-being. Compassion goes beyond feeling with the other to feeling for the other, and it is argued can keep us one step removed from their pain. It protects us and allows us to be present for what they are experiencing instead of what we are experiencing in reaction to their pain. So therefore, having compassion for what you do instead of empathy is arguably better. But for the sake of this presentation, and because the term compassion fatigue is more commonly used, I will refer to this as compassion fatigue. But I felt it was really important that people were aware of that distinction to help, as it might be helpful in your work to think about how you want to approach the things that you do. Do you want to do it with empathy, or do you want to do it with compassion? So I just want to highlight the 5 stages of compassion fatigue, which were created by Figley and Roop. They explained that there are 5 phases of transition. So the first one is the dream. So this is often developed in childhood and sustained through education until your employment. Phase 2 is the start. You have employment, you're ready to make a difference and make the world a better place for animals, where all your enthusiasm overflows into what you do. And then phase 3 is when we start losing our breath, realizing the journey is long and arduous, our enthusiasm dampens, and feelings of anger, frustration, and perhaps hopelessness start to filter in. Phase 4 is seeking rhythm, recognizing a need to set a steady pace in order to sustain sanity, health, and energy. This is the phase that sees employees either take steps to move forward and improve the situation, or then they check out and leave the profession entirely. Phase 5 is finding a rhythm, so finding your pace, a stride that is sustainable and provides a sense of relief and also fulfillment. But of course, not all journeys are linear, and but I thought this could be a helpful model to help you understand that what you may be feeling is not unusual and it is actually really common. And I wonder if you've ever found yourself in any of these phases and working in support of animals. So I'm now going to just talk about some of the signs of compassion fatigue that you might experience. So the first one is chronic fatigue. So even if you've had good sleep, you're really, really tired. Another sign is the opposite, like insomnia. So you're frequently waking up and unable to get back to sleep. The emotional intensity can increase. So this can include crying more, feeling more irritable than usual over small things, and becoming more irrational. And your cognitive ability decreases. So you may find that you're not thinking as clearly or are more forgetful. And the reason for that is because you're experiencing cognitive load. You can't take any more information in. And so some things just have to get left out, essentially. I'm just going to have a sip of water. The second, you might also re-experience the events. So you may relive moments of trauma or difficult decisions repeatedly, checking whether you made the right decision that day or that week, or could have done something differently, and you may have flashbacks to a traumatic experience. These things can really wear you down eventually. You may have feelings of hopelessness. You may say phrases to yourself like, what's the point in me doing this? This is never ending, or I don't want to do this anymore. You may have decreased empathy for the animals, but more likely to have it for the humans who have perhaps been causing some of the pain that you've had to experience. You may become more cynical and judgmental of people that you don't know, but also within your friendship group or your colleagues or family. And some studies have shown that there is an increase in staff not going into work or leaving work, which is why it is another reason it is so important to support staff working in this field. Just to add that you may also experience these things and they're not necessarily experiencing compassion fatigue, but many of these are markers to watch out for, and then consider doing something to help yourself to prevent it from escalating. It's when these markers become persistent, then that is a real concern, and it is important to notice when that happens and find ways to change it and seek help. But I want to again reiterate that all of these experiences are a very normal reaction to a very challenging experience, but they can be supportive. So I'm now going to talk about some of, for me, from my own experiences and what I've read, some of the things that make us most susceptible to compassion fatigue. These are alongside the obvious one, which you're experiencing some really emotional experiences at work. So that's an obvious one. But alongside that, these are some of the things which are susceptible to it. Finding it hard to say no. So this is not an easy one to change, and there can be many reasons why saying no for you is hard. Perhaps you don't like conflict, perhaps you don't like letting people down, perhaps you don't feel strong enough to say no, perhaps you're worried about people's reaction, and perhaps you don't know your boundaries around time yet. Secondly is perfectionism. So if you want things to be perfect and find it hard to believe that others can do a good enough job, then you may try to do everything yourself. You may believe that unless it is done perfectly, then it's not a good job. Work isolation. So a lack of connection can be a huge precursor to compassion fatigue. It can intensify your feelings if you find yourself alone and unable to share your concerns with colleagues. So it's important to ask yourself, are you isolated at work? And if so, is there anything you can do to change that? Putting others first. Now, this includes the animals, which of course you have to focus on, but this is about forgetting to look after yourself first. I'm all about take care of yourself first before helping anybody else. Not wanting to show weakness. So people are more likely to experience compassion fatigue or stress if they see this as a weakness, or conversely, they see it as a mounting stress as a symbol of strength. But either way, they will eventually break. And last one is lack of self-care practices. So self-care does not necessarily mean a nice bubble bath and candles, which is what I assumed self-care was before I started understanding this. But it's a lack of activities that make you feel good, which separate you from your job in whatever way that looks like for you. And I'll look at some of that in a minute. So these are just some ideas about what you can do to help yourself or others when working in animal care. Of course, there's going to be other things, but for brevity, these are the ones I'm going to cover. So first of all, the understanding that self-care is not a luxury, it's an absolute necessity in your line of work. And all of the following points I'm going to talk about made on this slide are about self-care. So first of all, thinking about positive self-care plans. These plans can give you energy to get things done and help you recover and prevent compassion fatigue from escalating. So ask yourself, what are the aspects of your life that refills your personal energy supplies? What can you plan to do outside of work that can recharge you? What else do you value outside of supporting animals? What do you love to do, or what did you used to love to do but don't do anymore? What would you love to try but haven't yet? Try to move your body from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic nervous system. And what I mean by that, those big words, if you don't know what that means. So the sympathetic nervous system is in control of like our fight and flight and freeze responses. It's where we get really stressed, to have anxiety, it gets us on the move, but it's not a calming place to be. It's just full of energy and not always positive energy. Whereas the parasympathetic nervous system is our rest and digest system. It's where we are calm and soothed, feel relaxed, where we feel much more rested. And it's a bit like if you see a dog when he shakes off, or if they're grooming, that's what they're doing. They're moving themselves from the sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system. So think about what can soothe you. For me, it's doing yoga and being out in nature as much as possible, but for you, it might be something completely different. Have you tried different breathing techniques? So, for example, belly breathing, which allows the mind and the body to feel safe enough to relax. The next one is seeking support. So, what resources are already available to your workplace, in your workplace? Who do you trust enough to speak to? Maybe try this with something that's not too personal to test that out if you're not so sure. And whilst coming to training such as this can be helpful in terms of teaching you theory about compassion fatigue and stress and how to manage it, sometimes theory is not enough. It is in these cases that it's important for you to recognise that you need to seek help, either through discussing that with your doctor or a coach, someone like me, or with a therapist. But if you can, try to speak to your line manager, first of all, as the experiences you have at work could be resolved there. Thirdly is setting some boundaries with your time. When can you say no? Think about the week ahead and just note to yourself, what do you actually want to say yes to, and what do you want to say no to? And how does it feel to imagine yourself saying those things? What are you saying yes to by saying no to something else? Maybe you're saying yes to looking after yourself first. So anticipate situations where you may need to say no. Consider potential requests or commitments that may arise and think about how you will respond. Having a plan in place helps you feel more prepared and confident. Offer something you can do instead. So maybe you can say, I can't stay until 8 o'clock tonight, but I can come in early tomorrow morning. As Brené Brown quotes, nothing is sustainable without boundaries. It is the key to self-love. Breaks. So breaks are wakeful relaxation. And so they're really important for your mind and body. When can you take a break in the day, but also outside of work? Do you understand and truly believe that having a break, even a quick one, or something totally unrelated to what you're doing, allows you to refuel and is really important? It offers you a space to reflect. What activities outside of your work allow you to have those breaks? Observe your body. I mentioned some of those markers previously, so you need to take time to notice these before they escalate. If you are irritable, this may be an emotional warning sign that something is not quite right. And connection and laughter, very important. You can't be anxious if you're laughing. It's actually impossible. So I mentioned some of those markers, important. It's so important to be connected with friends or colleagues. Take time to celebrate something going well, and laughter also helps us get into the parasympathetic nervous system, that much more calming area of our body. And finally, compassion satisfaction. It's talked about a lot in the research. So this refers to the positive aspect of working as a caregiver and finding what that might be. So for example, the grooming of animals has been shown to play a positive impact on compassion satisfaction. So compassion satisfaction, it is shown to act as a buffer to compassion fatigue in animal care. It is a protective factor. There may be negative things that you cannot change in your work, but there may be positive things you can increase to act as that buffer. So balancing out the more challenging tasks with the tasks that can create a sense of feeling good, such as cleaning, feeding, bonding, playing, all of those things can act as a buffer. But all the things I just mentioned so far, they all act as buffers to compassion fatigue. So they're all useful to help you. And I think if you hadn't heard of this analogy, I'd be remiss not to mention it in case you haven't, is the when you're on an aeroplane, when you get the oxygen mask, you always have to put it on yourself first. You have to help yourself before you can help anybody else. And it's exactly the same in what you do. You need to look after yourself before you can help anybody else. So I just want to say a personal big thank you to all of you for the work that you do to support animals. I really know how important you are, and I hope that you can go away from this really short session with a few tidbits at least, and a little bit more understanding about compassion fatigue that you can try and do to take care of you first. That's so important. If you want to get in touch, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me what you thought. If you've got any questions, you can find my website here, the BlackLight Coach. There's my email, and I'm also on LinkedIn. So, and I like making new connections on LinkedIn, so please get in touch with me. I've also got some references. So these are the academic references I've referred to, the key ones. So in the recording, you'll have a copy of that in the recording as well, so you won't write that all down right now. And that's it. So now I think we have any questions. And I'll try to stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Leona.
There we go.
Well, firstly, thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation. And I have to say, very personally, in the slide that was talking about what makes you susceptible to compassion fatigue, I felt seen. So thank you for sharing that. It's yeah, very, very challenging, but certainly great to know that we've got those tools at our disposal to help. So
yeah, and they're not.
Sorry, go on.
They're not all the tools, are they? They know it's 20 minutes. For me, they're just the highlights, and certainly things that have helped me get over my compassion fatigue, for sure.
And hopefully some of our audience can use those as well. So we've got a question. When friends and family aren't really supportive, maybe they don't kind of understand the challenges that we ourselves as animal caregivers are experiencing, and possibly the country that you're in doesn't necessarily prioritize animals either, how do we go about seeking out other forms of support?
I suppose that's two different questions, isn't it? There's friends and family, and then there's a country. There's different things. I think maybe it comes a little bit like with friends and family, maybe it comes down to testing the waters with something that isn't too heavy initially and seeing how that goes. I think people are getting better at having empathy and compassion when we are feeling the strain, for sure. I personally, when I was experiencing it, I found it really awkward mentioning it to anyone, because I'm like a doctor in psychology. Like, you're not meant to have burnout and compassion fatigue. I'm meant to be not like that at all. So it's very difficult to talk about it. But actually, people are kind. And if they're not, they shouldn't be your friends. In terms of the country, gosh, that's a harder one, isn't it? But there are, I think, didn't you say you're going to be sharing some places that you can seek help at the end? I think Elliot said that. So there's obviously loads of charities out there which have free resources, and I know there's helplines as well. There's not many, but there's some. And yeah, seeking, like I said, through coaching to help you overcome these things, or if it's much deeper, then a therapist. But start with work and get some help there if that's where the main problems are, if you can. But the key message is talk about it. It's not a thing to be ashamed of, ultimately.
Absolutely. And yeah, the more you talk about it, the more you can be open and hopefully seek that support where it is available. So yeah, it always feels like the first step is the hardest, but definitely once you get over that first hurdle, yeah, there's so much there, which is fantastic. So another question for you, Leona. When there's disparity between two people as to how they're coping with, say, the grief of the death of an animal, or witnessing animal abuse, for example, maybe you've got one person who is a little bit more able to cope with that kind of thing, and then you've got someone who is reacting a little bit more severely to it. How are you able to bring everybody onto the same level to kind of understand how everybody's feeling and to hopefully move forward with those feelings?
Are you talking about the person being like the manager of those two people?
It could be whatever. It could be, say, if you're the person that feels not okay about the death of an animal, but you've maybe experienced it quite a few times before, you've got those coping mechanisms, but then you've got somebody who hasn't and is struggling to deal with it, or indeed if you're a manager.
That's an interesting question. I don't have a specific answer in terms of like research or anything on that. It's an opinion, so it's trickier. But I suppose the importance of trying to help them have a shared understanding if helping both of those people try and see it from both of their perspectives, perhaps you could probably learn. Like, I suppose I'm thinking about it, person A might be absolutely fine with the death of an animal, but is that their protective mechanism? Are they pretending to everything is fine because actually if they openly say what is wrong, then they fall apart and they can't deal with that? Whereas person B might be really open and saying, I'm really struggling with this stuff, and they look like they are really struggling, but actually by the fact of them opening up shows their strength. So they both have these different strengths, and not even weaknesses, but differences that they could perhaps learn from.
That's a great idea. Sometimes it's difficult to get managers to see it in the same way, I think, but yeah.
You'd have to have a very safe space to do that, and time.
Absolutely.
To manage that, I think, and that's not easy.
And then another question, Leona, how do you deal when you get feedback from a manager that they have empathy for animals but not towards colleagues?
So the feedback from the manager is, I have empathy for the animals but not for you. I can't imagine, and I don't know. I truly believe that in order to help animals, the humans have to be well. Animal welfare is about the humans. If we didn't have humans, would we even have animal welfare difficulties? So I counter that to say that you need to look after the humans first and understand that without them doing a good job and doing the best that they can, the animals will suffer.
I think that's a very good way of thinking about it. It's really difficult when everybody thinks about these things in such different ways, isn't it? It's there's a lot to factor in there, and working with different personalities can always make these kind of things much more
Absolutely,
difficult.
and that's why it's important to not be isolated at work, because you need to have objectivity. If you become isolated and not listening to other people's perspectives and holding them in tension and trying to understand, even if you don't agree with that perspective, holding intention to understand their perspective, then that's where you can come unstuck.
Yeah, I guess that's something that we can all do within ourselves to help other people, is to just do that perspective taking, I guess.
No problem.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for answering all those questions, Leona. I'm sure that some of them are quite tricky.
They were, but that's good. It got me thinking.
But yeah, we've had a lot of questions and a lot of great feedback already from our wonderful audience. So thank you everyone for sending those in.